All right, what's going on? What's up? What's popping? What's popping? All right. I'm going to wait until some people arrive before I start speaking because this topic shouldn't even be debated. It should be cut and dry. Signed, sealed, delivered, and what have you. And it has nothing to do with anyone, and it should not have anything to do with anyone having some sort of hatred supposedly for so-called black females and what have you. It's just being objective. If anyone saw the video or the police body cam footage, because there, I saw at least two police body cam videos in regards to the situation. And me seeing both of these videos because I finally saw the video. Uh, Now I was late when it came to this topic, but finally saw the video about yesterday. And me seeing the video, I don't think the death of Micaiah Bryant should be debatable. It should be no debate about her death. That's my opinion. And that's not me being apathetic. It's not me being cold hearted. It's not me being quote unquote misogynistic. Nah, nah, nah. It's just based what was seen in the video. Her death should not be debated at all. But yeah. But for those of you who are unaware of this situation, Micaiah Bryant was a 16-year-old so-called black female in Columbus, Ohio, who uh who a few days ago was involved in a fight with another female around her age within the group home that she lives in, and police were called to the scene, and allegedly it was Micaiah Bryant. She called the police allegedly, and police showed up, and a court and based on the video footage from one of the police officers' body cam. Well, actually, it's two officers that had body cam footage that showed it, but the most, the ones that's the video footage that's watched the most on social media was the video body cam footage from the actual officer that shot and killed Micaiah Bryant. So the footage showed Micaiah Bryant involved in a fight with another young lady, and right before she was shot, Micaiah Bryant had a knife and was about to stab another young lady until police shot her 4 times, which instantly killed her. And judging by what's shown in the video, it shouldn't be debated as far as whether or not her death was justified. It shouldn't be any debates at all. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to read this article. I said I was going to be quiet, or no, I said I was going to wait until some more people come in the room. But fuck it, I'll just continue speaking. Okay. This article is from the New York Times, NewYorkTimes.com, dated. What's the date? Dated today, April 24th, 2021. Written by Alicia Haridasani Gupta. And the title, it's titled, It's More Than Just Tragic, Micaiah Bryant and the Burden of Black Girlhood. What do this editor know about black girlhood? She's not even a so-called black female. She's an East Indian. What she know about so-called black girlhood, especially in this side of the earth, man? Come on. But anyway, I'll just continue reading this article. Well, I'll start reading this article. Huh. Okay. The fatal shooting of a 16-year-old in Columbus, Ohio highlights the different standards that young black girls are held to. Really? Okay. Ma'Khia Bryant was a child. Brittany Cooper, the author of Eloquent Rage. In her words, is available as okay. It happened in a matter of seconds. On Tuesday in Columbus, Ohio, a police officer fatally shot Ma'Khia Bryant, a 16-year-old black girl. Body camera footage shows Officer Nicholas Reardon, who was responding to a 911 call, arriving at a chaotic scene with several people engaged in a heated fight outside Ms. Bryant's foster home. As the officer gets out of his vehicle, Ms. Bryant is seen lunging at a woman with what appears to be a knife in her hand. Then, seconds later, in the frenzy and chaos, she lunges at another woman. Hey, hey, Officer Reardon says as he pulls out his gun. Get down, get down. He fires four quick shots, killing Ms. Bryant in an instant. The Ohio Bureau of Criminal Investigation is conducting a third party investigation, and some experts, after watching the footage, have pointed out that Ms. Bryant was armed and seemed to be acting erratically, deeming the use of deadly force justifiable. Hey, anyone who have eyes that see who saw the video would come to that same conclusion. And it's sad that me as a so-called black person have to say that, but I have to be objective. I can't. I hate the fact that there are a lot of these so-called black people dying at the hands of police, from George Floyd to Breonna Taylor to Philando Castile to Eric Garner to and the list goes on. Sandra Bland, the list goes on. But at the same time, I'm an objective individual. And if I see a person, regardless of race, ethnicity, nationality, what have you, who's actually putting people in, who's actually putting lives in danger, and the officer have no choice but to use deadly force in order to save the lives of other people, then it's justifiable, in my opinion. But I'll continue reading the article. But the timing of the shooting, on the same day that the former Minneapolis officer Derek Chauvin was found guilty of murdering George Floyd last May, underscored, for many, the incessant drumbeat of police brutality and systematic racism. Ms. Bryant's young age, so evident in her giggly TikTok videos, dancing and doing her hair like any teenage girl, also highlights the unique burden of black girls. In media coverage, Ms. Bryant has consistently been referred to as a woman, and her behavior and her body size have been scrutinized to suggest that she present a large, uncontainable threat to everyone at the scene. Listen, let me stop right here. Although Ma'Khia Bryant is considered or was considered to be a minor, but she did weigh at least a good 200 pounds, right? I mean, not to poke fun of her weight, but if an adult of her same, if an adult or someone that was over the age of 18, an adult who weighed the same as her and was her same height, who tried doing the same thing that Ma'Khia Bryant did and got shot for it, I'm sure that the writer of this article would not have said this nonsense. Talking about how that Her behavior and her body size have been scrutinized to suggest that she presents a large, uncontainable threat to everyone at the scene. She does. If some, it doesn't matter how old you are. If you're large in size, which means that you have a physical advantage, and 9 times out of 10, an advantage of strength when you're in a physical altercation with somebody, and at the same time have a weapon on you, you do present a large and a large and a threat, especially when you're a big person with a weapon on you. So yes, all that factors in when it comes to being a threat to the people around you, thus giving more reason for an officer to use deadly force. Am I making this shit up? But I'll continue reading this article. Micaiah Bryant was a child. Brittany Cooper, author of Eloquent Rage, said on MSNBC on Thursday, the way that she has been talked about because she is a big girl, people see her as the aggressor. No, the video shows that she was the aggressor. The video footage, the video footage from the police camera shows that she was the aggressor as she was lunging at someone with a knife. They don't see her humanity. They have adultified her. What's up with these people what's up with these individuals trying to, oh my gosh, man. They're trying to make a victim out of someone who could have potentially killed somebody if the cop did not do what he did. Come on, man. They don't see her humanity. They have adultified her. What the fuck does that mean? Adultified her. What the fuck does that mean? Let me go on. You know, I'm surprised that the New York Times, as a editorial, actually allowed this nonsense to be fucking put online to their website. But let me continue reading. Because of layers of gendered racism, oh, here we go. Adults tend to view black girls as more threatening, more aggressive, more mature, and less innocent than white girls of the same age, robbing black girls of the same freedom to be children. According to a 2017 report by the Georgetown Law Center on Poverty and Inequality, the report found that black girls as young as 5 years old are held to adult like standards and, in turn, receive harsher punishments for their behavior. Black girls are more likely to be suspended or arrested at school than their white peers, often for minor infractions. Okay, this is true though. This is true. Often for minor infractions like using their cell phones or throwing tantrums. In another report by the same researchers, one girl recalled that in elementary school, during a game at recess, she had thrown a ball and it had hit another girl in the face. She was then accused of assault and battery. Others shared that if they spoke up in class, they were labeled sassy or outspoken, while their white peers were seen as intelligent. Okay, this is true, but the fact of the matter is, how does that factor in to the death of Micaiah Bryant? How does that make her death unjustified? See, that's what I'm saying. When if anybody just saw the video footage, then there should be no debate as to whether or not the officer did the right thing when he shot Micaiah Bryant. I mean, it's unfortunate that she's only 16 years old and for her life to end that way. But the thing is, she 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 was about, or she could have killed an innocent person with that knife. Let me continue. Though black boys also face the same adultification bias, the experience of black girls has been and still is largely overlooked. The unpack To unpack these issues, in her words, caught up with Dr. Jamelia Blake, a co-author of the Georgetown Law Center on Poverty and Inequality Report and a psychology professor at Texas A&M University, and Dr. Monique Morris, executive director of Grant Makers for Girls of Color, the author of the book Push Out the Criminalization of Black Girls in School. The conversation has, oh, let me go. Okay, let's start with adultification bias. What does it mean, and how does it manifest in schools or interactions with law enforcement? Jamelia Blake. When black girls are not seen as children, that's adultification bias. They're not seen as being innocent. They're not seen as needing nurturing. They're not seen as more adult like. No, excuse me, they're seen as more adult like. And what it is dehumanization. Black girls are not afforded the same freedoms that are guaranteed in childhood, like exploration, the ability to make mistakes, or the benefit of the doubt. How it looks in school is this general perception of black girls' behavior being very volitional and menacing, and even more so if they voice their concerns and raise awareness. Everything that they do is kind of seen as problematic. They are constantly monitored. They receive more severe disciplinary actions, and they aren't even able to be sad or cry. And I don't think many educators, law professionals, mental health professionals, and individuals who interact with children are even aware of it. I don't think they know that the adultification bias may be driving the punitiveness and the severity of their responses to black girls. Monique Morris. Adultification bias is also compression, it's also age compression. This is a way to erase the normal adolescent behavior and development that we have come to associate with young people. As if they're full, excuse me, and it heightens our propensity, excuse me, and development that we have come to associate with young people, and it heightens our propensity to respond to young people as if they're fully developed adults, referring to girls as women, not allowing them to make mistakes, even how we define their responses to conditions. So when there are things that negatively impact them and they speak up against it, we as adults associate this black girl behavior with some of the same tropes and stereotypes that have plagued black womanhood for centuries. Their way of responding and defending themselves is read to be combative, and their way of challenging structures of oppression are deemed to be aggressive. That leaves very little opportunity for us to really think about the prevalence of trauma in their lives. Right. And the very harmful angry black woman trope is always in the wings. What's her name? Monique Morris. Okay, they just abbreviated Monique Morris exactly. And sometimes people think about the emotions as mutually exclusive, like you can't express anger and also be victimized by systems of oppression. We have to really think about the host of environmental conditions as part of the tapestry shaping their life outcomes. To strip them of this context facilitates the adultification bias and, in many ways, reduces the institutional capacity to be responsive. Okay, let me stop right here. Now, in general, even if this is true for the general population of so called black females in America, and I'll give them that there's some truth in this, where black, so called black children in general, black girls, black boys, are not seen the same as children of other races in America. I give them that. But my question is this: how does that take away from the fact that what was done to Micaiah Bryant was justified, as she put, as she was in a, as she put someone's life in jeopardy when she attempted to stab that person with a knife. And the officer who who unfortunately killed Micaiah Bryant actually saved a black woman's life or a black girl's life. The cop shot Micaiah Bryant to save someone's life as Micaiah Bryant attempted to do something that could have potentially ended that person's life. Because you can die from a stabbing. I mean, you stab somebody with a knife, that can cause internal bleeding. Internal bleeding, like the bleeding of your internal organs, can kill you. You never know. She could have probably punctured that person's lungs. If if Micaiah Bryant was successful in stabbing that person, Micaiah could have probably punctured that person's lungs. And a punctured lung can kill somebody. Someone can die of a punctured lung. So when this article is talking about the adultification of black girls, okay, there's some points in there, but I don't think that applies to Micaiah Bryant because Micaiah Bryant, although she's a minor, she's 16 years old. She's old enough to know that it's wrong to stab somebody. So this article is based on making a potential victimizer the victim. I'm sorry, Micaiah Bryant is not the victim in this scenario. If Micaiah Bryant was unarmed and did not do anything to put an officer or anyone's life in danger, but the officer shot and killed her anyway, then then all these things can apply to Micaiah Bryant. I just don't get how. And I'm sure that these two people that speaking, Monique Morris and Jamelia Blake, I'm sure there are so-called black females, so-called black female academics, highly educated, and I just can't stand how there are some black females out there that would do anything to try to rationalize the bad behavior of other black females, even when it comes to academics like Monique Morris and Jamelia Blake. Even black female academics such as themselves would try to uh, 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 excuse the bad behavior or the bad actions of another black female and try to make that female a victim. Nah, man. Micaiah Bryant was no victim. And it should not be debated whether she was a victim or not. It shouldn't be debated. So, okay, so Jamelia Bryant, let me move on and continue reading this article. Jamelia Bryant says, right, exactly. The ability to express now, they're in the conversation. Obviously, they're in the conversation with each other. Uh Jamelia Blake, excuse me, Jamelia Blake and Monique Morris. They're in a conversation with each other talking about black female identification. Uh Monique Morris and Jamelia Blake. So Jamelia Blake says, right, exactly. The ability to express a range of emotions, whether that's in response to oppressive conditions or not, is a function of being human, excuse me. So what is happening to black girls and children is that we're robbing them of the essential aspects of what it means to be a human being. Uh, Jamelia Blake continues and says, for me as a mother, I have a 16-year-old. Whenever videos of these incidents come out, I wait a significant amount of time to watch it because I don't want to see the loss of life of another young black person for something senseless. It really tears away at your soul. At any given time, that could have been me. That could have been my daughter, my niece, or any of the girls that I work with. So when I did see the video, I saw someone who just reacted and didn't take a lay of the land. Excuse me. I saw someone who just reacted and didn't take a lay of the land in terms of what was happening. What? Didn't ask questions. Didn't try to interrupt the fight. Monique Morris says, "You're not alone. I took my time to watch it too. And originally, I was not going to watch the video. We have seen so many cases, and it's re traumatizing to watch this footage over and over. I also have a teenage daughter, a 17-year-old, who has had a pretty strong reaction to the way the media has covered this shooting, showing, for example, snippets and clips from the footage without issuing trigger warnings. This routine display of violence in this way also contributes to the dehumanization and adultification of our young people as they have to absorb all of this and also function as if everything is normal. All the foster care professionals and others who work with girls who I've spoken to have said that they, as non police officers, have been able to disarm girls with a knife, engage in a fight without shooting someone. And the issue here is also the fact that whenever we have moments of crisis in our society, we call upon individuals like this officer, who was an expert marksman, to come in and respond to something that did not require an expert marksman. Are you kidding me? Are you? So, in other words, what Monique Morris is saying is that if a whole group of people are fighting, uh, it doesn't require a police officer or a group of police officers to step in to come into that fight and step in and break up that fight. So if that quote unquote expert marksman did not show up and use deadly force to stop Ma'Khia Bryant from stabbing another female, what you think would have happened to that other female? What you think would have happened? Now, if if that was the case, that other female probably would have been dead or hospitalized. And now what? Like this is the thing in so-called Black America. I get it that we're tired of seeing so-called Black people getting shot and killed by police. I get it. I get it. I am too. But we have to be balanced here and cannot pretend as if every single so-called Black person who've been shot and killed by police are actual victims. In so-called Black America, we have to stop making the victimizer the victim, or in this case, the potential victimizer the victim. We can't do that. We always have a tendency in Black America to constantly make a victim out of the perpetrator. We have to stop doing that shit. We have to. And Ma'Khia Bryant, I'm sorry. Well, I'm not sorry. Fuck it. Yes, she was young. And yes, it's sad that she died the way that she did, but she was about to make a victim of another human being until police stopped her. So can we for once think about the person that could have gotten stabbed and probably could have died or severely hospitalized if the cop did not save that other person's life by shooting Ma'Khia Bryant? Can we do that? I'm saying this shit should not have been this situation should not have it isn't up for debate. It should be cut and dry as far as whether or not the officer that shot her was justified. Let me go back. Let me go back in this article to this paragraph right here. Hold on. Okay. Hold on. What I forgot, I'm sitting there reading this article and I didn't even post the link to this article that I'm reading. Okay. On the chat, I posted the link to the article that I'm reading right now. And I will post the link to the same article in the video description box. So those of you that's watching me in the playback, you will be able to find the link to this article in the video description box underneath. Okay. Jamelia Blake. Okay, let me see what. Okay. Okay. Jamelia Blake in this article said something that bothered me. She said, "So when I did see the video, I saw someone who just reacted and didn't take a lay of the land in terms of what was happening. Didn't ask questions, didn't try to interrupt the fight. Like I saw someone just reacted and didn't take a lay of the land in terms of what was happening." So this lady, she's talking about the officer who shot Ma'Khia Bryant. She said when she saw basically what she's saying is that the police did not take the time to question what was going on and did not take the time to observe the scene and carefully pinpoint what exactly is going on. Basically, Jamelia Bryant's trying to make it seem as if the police officer wasn't thinking rationally before he opened fire on Ma'Khia Bryant. But the thing is that he tried to interrupt the fight. He tried to interrupt the fight, and he didn't just reacted. The officer observed what he believed and what actually was someone lunging at another person or trying to lunge at another person with a deadly weapon. So the officer stopped that from happening. So to try to make it seem that the officer wasn't that specific officer wasn't thinking properly, nah, I disagree with that. So now, not only is this article in the New York Times painting a picture as Ma'Khia Bryant to be this victim, they're painting the officer who saved another black person's life as someone who wasn't thinking straight. What the fuck? I mean, you know what, man? This is when I have to shout out to Man of Tomorrow, man. This is when I have to side with Man of Tomorrow. What's going on, American Negro? What's up? What's up, American Negro? You said us. What you mean by that? You said us. What you mean by that? Clarify what you mean or elaborate what you mean. But shout outs to Man of Tomorrow, because Man of Tomorrow, he talks about how a lot of these academics are not really an asset to Black America. And I agree. Because these two so-called Black females who's having this dialogue with each other, they're supposed to be academics, right? One is supposed to be this a psychology professor, and another one, I forgot who the other one's supposed to be. But okay, let me continue and read this article. Okay, the question someone asked a question: what are some ways to work through this? Okay. Uh, let me see. What's her name again? Let me go up and see what's her name. Monique Morris. Okay, yeah. What are some ways? That question asks, what are some ways to work through this? Monique Morris says, I immediately got on the phone with people in the Columbus community who are working in schools or working with girls in high risk situations in the community to ask them what they needed, what was happening, how girls were processing the moment. Much of the work that is happening now in response to this shooting is to reinforce and amplify to Black girls that they are, in fact, loved. That if they make a mistake and if they engage in a fight, that the first response won't be to kill them, but to intervene and help them learn from that. Yeah, that's if a weapon is not being used, especially a weapon that can kill and have had a history of killing people. But moving on, the same nonviolent interventions that are used for children who are not Black girls We as adults, especially those adults who are called to be first responders in moments of crisis, have to forever be working on our capacity to elevate the need to preserve life. Now, in general, I would agree with this statement in general, but because what Monique Morris is speaking about is having nonviolent interventions when children are fighting with each other, and I agree in general that there should be nonviolent interventions. But that is when a weapon is not being used in a fight, and when someone is not trying to lunge at another human being to try to stab that person. Come on. I can't stand when people are just so in denial of the obvious truth that's in their face. So, going right along. So much of what I'm seeing in the public domain in response to the footage is this inability for us to just basically ask the humane question of how do we resolve conflict without killing somebody. Oh boy. Oh boy. You know, I'm just more and more disappointed when I keep reading this pathetic article. And once again, I can't believe the New York Times actually allowed this article to be on their website, man. Because when these two, supposed black female academics are having this conversation, they're constantly ignoring the fact that Micaiah Bryant put someone else's life in jeopardy when she tried to lunge at another human being with a knife. Thus, the officer had to do what he had to do to shoot her in order to save that innocent life. They're ignoring that. So let me continue. It's not necessarily either or on the adultification bias or racialized violence, but the adultification is informed by the history of racialized violence. You have to see all of the context that created a space for these girls to be read as super, ultra threatening, and predatory. It's more than just tragic, it's part of the deep legacy of oppression. Oh boy. Okay, I'm done reading that article. I mean, when it comes to a situation of a so-called black person attempting to victimize another so-called black person, and someone intervened to stop that black person from victimizing another individual, you can't blame racism. You can't blame systematic racism for that. I mean, come on. It's in this aspect, in this, when it comes to this topic, I can't even use race as a factor. I can't use race as a factor because what I saw was multiple so-called black females fighting each other on the video. Not only what I saw, but what's shown in the video footage on the police body cam is so-called black people fighting each other. And one so-called black person attempting to use a deadly weapon, thus threatening the life of another so-called black person. But it was intervened when the cop shot that black person wielding that deadly weapon. The cop saved the black life from a black person trying to harm that black life with a weapon. This thing should not be debated. It should not be debated. And there's an argument going on pertaining to this topic. And I've constantly seen this in other YouTube videos and also this article that I just read. spoke about it also, pertaining to the fact that if it was a Caucasian female that was in that same predicament, then police would probably use another means, use another way to stop that female. See that? Listen, I don't know about you guys, but I've seen video footage of Caucasian females getting shot and killed by police for wielding a weapon at police. Okay? So, and not only that, but the law actually make it justified for an officer to utilize this is common sense. I should not even have to speak about that. But the law makes it just for an officer to use deadly force on someone who is threatening the life of an officer or another person. So, regardless of what you think, as far as if Ma'Khia Bryant was not a so-called black female, the situation probably would have been handled a different way by police. Regardless of how much you believe that, the fact of the matter is the law gives officers a right to utilize deadly force in these types of situations. And you see, when people make these statements, they're not thinking nor having empathy on the lady in the video or the female in the video that Ma'Khia Bryant almost stabbed. They're not thinking of that female who could have died, could have potentially died at the hands of Ma'Khia Bryant if the cop did not intervene by shooting down Ma'Khia Bryant. I mean, there should be no debate as to whether or not Bryant's death was justified. It's fucked up, it's sad, but it shouldn't be debatable. It's not debatable. It's not debatable. But also, the people that ran that group home that Bryant lived in, I believe they should be arrested too. They should be investigated and arrested too for negligence. Because if you're an adult and you run a group home and you let these minors just sit down and fight each other like that while they're outside in the street and you let them fight each other, and based on what was seen in the video, I didn't see it. I personally didn't see people break it up to fight. I didn't. So the people that run that group home should be brought up on charges of negligence, because the adults that ran that group home should not even let the fight go that far. Because if the people that ran that group home had things under control, there would not be a need for a cop to come in and intervene like that. And like I said, and this has nothing, and like I said before earlier in this video, this has nothing to do with how I feel about so-called black females or how the manosphere feel about so-called black females. It's just being objective. And seeing that a person was on the verge of using a deadly weapon at another individual until she was stopped by police. So I don't even know why this topic is even being debated. I don't know how or why someone would actually take the opposing position and state that and try to even state that Ma'Khia Bryant shouldn't have died the way she did. Man, get the fuck out of here with that bullshit. You know. But anyhow, it. I don't give a fuck if she was a Caucasian female, a so-called black female, or Asian female. Any person that was in that position of Ma'Khia Bryant deserved to get shot by police. Any person. So yo, I'm done with this video. So you guys have a good night. All right, peace.